In this video, we will introduce you to the analytical hierarchy process, or AHP. The AHP process is a methodology underlying the Decision Lens software solution that OPTN leverages to help prioritize decisions during the lung allocation process. This video demonstrates both how the AHP process helps answer complex questions and how OPTN leverages the AHP process within the Decision Lens software to inform the organization's decisions. Decision Lens is a SaaS-based software founded by John and Daniel Sadi, which launched in 2005. Their father, Dr. Thomas Sadi, developed the underlying theory that drives the software, called the analytic hierarchy process. The analytical hierarchy process is a psychosocial theory that enables people to prioritize and evaluate tangible and intangible factors that otherwise would seem impossible to quantify in a decision. Dan and John's passion is to help improve the way that organizations make their most critical decisions. AHP has been applied in many global examples. Dr. Thomas Sadi was very heavily involved in helping the following countries in the following examples. South Africa used AHP to end apartheid and appease the population with the release of Nelson Mandela. Also, Poland used it to decide to stay off the euro, which has had a tremendous positive impact on the country. The picture you see here is a crowning ceremony of Dr. Thomas Sadi held in Poland at one of their oldest universities for his transformational impact helping them to apply AHP. The AHP process says that decision-making is more than solely a scientific process. Now, why is that? Science and technology use analysis. Analysis breaks things down to provide information only, not necessarily the answers. Science is empirical, while decision-making seeks a solution from the synthesis of many parts. Science is tangible, while decision-making is more intangible. We have successfully reached the moon, harnessed the energy of an atom, mastered global communication, and invented the computer, which spawned tens of thousands of useful and not so useful things. And although man has traveled to the moon, he is unable to devise a better transportation system on Earth. Now, why is this? Because today's problems in this example, transportation, have complexities and are multifaceted. Not because the professionals involved are less imaginative or intelligent than those in the space program. It's because transportation is more than just a technical problem. It is what we refer to as a socio-technical problem, with subtle facets which makes it more difficult to handle. Some of those being there's many and diverse stakeholders, there are many competing considerations, and transportation goals are not sharply defined. So how do we accommodate the growing number of riders on our transportation system? Can we continue to maintain and preserve such a vast transportation network? We need to reduce the transportation system's impact on the environment. Costs continue to spiral out of control, and how would we rein them in? And lastly, how do we increase our partnerships and integrate with other transportation networks for the most efficiency and effectiveness? Most decision problems have competing interests. So how can we arrive at decisions to solve these problems, and especially this transportation problem? Well, we can use AHP. Unfortunately, not with analysis alone. We innately make decisions based on judgments, by which we break down problems and then compare discrete elements to arrive at a decision. First, we should structure our decision for judgments by 1, describing it, 2, defining relationships between parts, and then 3, applying judgments to relate the parts according to a goal or purpose that we have in mind. We must try to create order from all the chaos that these competing questions bring us. And we can do that by identifying and finding interrelated criteria and structuring it accordingly. We refer to this as our criteria framework. Once we have our foundational criteria aligned in this hierarchy fashion of parent in orange and children in blue criteria, we're ready to prioritize which criteria is more important to the overall goal and by how much. This is where the Decision Lens software leverages the analytical hierarchy process, where we put each criterion head-to-head against each other, and subject matter experts give their personal judgments to which criterion is more important to the main goal and by how much. This paired comparison, as we refer to it, tells us as an organization what we value. The end result provides us criterion weights as percentages, as each relates to the portfolio goal. In our transportation example, the criterion patron experience goes head-to-head against the criterion titled on-time performance. Now, one of our subject matter experts, or SMEs, may say that on-time performance is 5 times more important than the patron experience, and they would log their judgment accordingly in the Decision Lens software solution. Then they would move on to the next pair of criteria and repeat placing their informed judgments. Once all subject matter experts have completed their paired comparisons for all criteria elements, we have our priorities, or our criteria weights. In this example, maintain grow ridership makes up 29.8% of the weight, system preservation is 37.1%, so on and so forth. See, we're able to now quantify those tangible and intangible factors that make this transportation example very mind-boggling. Now, how does all of this apply to OPTN and your role there? Remember back to our transportation example. First, the OPTN committee identified all of the competing questions and created order from the chaos by defining the following criteria that support the portfolio goal to allocate deceased donor lungs. And here they are: medical urgency, post-transplant survival, reducing biological disadvantages in transplant access, prior living donor, pediatric age group priority, and travel efficiency. Second, the OPTN committee is asking stakeholders to establish the relative impact of each criterion to the decision goal and to submit their informed judgments in the Decision Lens software. Third and lastly, once all of the informed judgments are completed in the portfolio, the OPTN committee will have their criteria weights, which gives us a holistic picture to guide our decision making. Now let's move into the actual Decision Lens software solution and provide you some in-app training on how to use the AHP functionality in-app. In order to access Decision Lens, enter your username and password on the login screen, and you will be brought to the Decision Lens homepage. A voter is asked to log into Decision Lens and should immediately see a task in their homepage asking them to establish priorities for the portfolio. Once they click on that task, they are taken to the Priorities Overview page, which provides instructions and describes the process. A voter should click on the Get Started button and are taken to the voting interface. We are going to now provide our judgments for our portfolio's criteria with respect to the portfolio goal to allocate lungs according to the criteria established in the OPTN final rule. You will see one pair of criteria on the screen at a time. You will move through all criteria added to the portfolio in this way and provide your judgments of one versus the other. For our first pair, decide which of the 2 criteria in your judgment is more important to the overall goal of allocating lungs and by how much: medical urgency or post-transplant outcomes. The definitions of each criteria are shown below the title to help you make the most informed decision. Please click on the criteria name to open the side panel, which allows you to more easily view the entire definition before making your informed decision. Move the slider to the point that best reflects your judgments, or simply click on the point along the 0 to 9 bar. You can always change your mind and move the slider again. Please leave a comment after each judgment made in order to add context that might otherwise be unknown. The committee will review all comments and look for trends across the community and between stakeholders. The comments left in the voting interface will be helpful to understand why certain criteria were prioritized over others. Click the Next button to move to the next comparison. Your overall progress towards completion is tracked in the above progress indicator. When voters have completed evaluating all criteria, they will see their results graph. Remember, this is just the voters' individual list. The final list is a composite of all judgments in this AHP exercise. This concludes our instruction on the analytical hierarchy process, how it is important in framing up a decision, and how it is applied in the Decisionland software. For further questions, please contact Sarah Rose Wells, sararose.wells@unos.org.